Yes, welcome on in, everybody, to the Saturday Night Network for another edition of our SNL 51 cast preview podcast here today to talk about Jane Wickline returning for her second season at Saturday Night Live. So, very exciting to talk about Jane coming back here. Of course, we are a presentation of LateNighter.com, and I'm so happy to be here with the great Mike Murray. Mike, how are you?
I'm great, John. So good to see your face. I hope you had a great summer. Eventful things happening, and just crazy that it's September already. But let's get to it.
Yeah, happy to kick off my podcasting journey with you this season, where we will be back together, do podcasts, and talk about SNL for the sixth season in a row.
6 years.
Yeah, can't wait to do it. Of course, we'll have plenty of time to talk about that throughout the season. But for now, we are here to talk about Jane Wickline, who maybe people thought might not be coming back for a second season. And I like Jane's very nice and did a lot of interesting things on the show. But I just did say, we went through some of the stats, Mike, at the end of the season, and they weren't so hot for Jane. But there's plenty of people who had weird rookie starts and then ended up having great SNL careers. So overall, how are you feeling about Jane coming back to the show this season?
I think when you throw around words like overhaul, rebuild, think big cast changes, you look at the list and you say, okay, we're probably going to purge the bottom of the stat list, and maybe there's some big vets on the way out. That's what I would imagine would be a rebuild or an overhaul of SNL post 50. So when you look at that list and you see the bottom three on our power ranking we talked about at the end of last season, it was Emil Wakim, Jane Wickline, and Devin Walker. That's 15, 16, and 17. So we would imagine that when you see a Devin exit and an Emil exit, that the one in the middle, Jane Wickline, would be exiting as well. Not the case. So I think that's interesting headline to lead off out of everyone who has exited for whatever reason or another, that Jane Wickline is getting the second year featured player credit. So they like something that she's doing. So we're going to see more of her next year. It's going to be interesting.
It's really interesting. And, I think, with no offense to Devin, I think it was the Emil thing that really made me feel like, okay, well, if Emil's going, Jane is probably going too. But that's only just because we didn't get an opportunity to see that much from her this last season. I mean, she had some really big moments performing some of her TikTok stuff on Update. But beyond that, there wasn't a lot of material that she was writing for the show that she was getting in that was so different to some of the things we saw previous to her being there. So it wasn't like it was just so bad, but I think it was more there's just so many question marks that we as really strong fans of the show have about what can she really do on Saturday Night Live? Is that how you're feeling as well?
Yeah, this is an interesting case. I think a headline that we covered on By the Numbers all year that will be forgotten, and maybe for good reason, because it's a fresh start and everyone deserves a second chance or give their newbies their first chance, is that this cast had Bowen Yang and Colin Jost as the faces of the show and the stars, but this cast had more parody, as in Parity, last year than we've ever seen it in the SNL stat era, where people that you thought were having a bad season weren't really having a bad season. And so look at the stats, the bottom of the list, they are the bottom of the list in comparison, but no one in this cast last year had a bad statistical season, including Jane Wickline. So going forward, it's going to be interesting to see if she's used differently or the same way, because it really was Weekend Update. So without Weekend Update, she would have had one of the worst seasons in SNL history, but had 5 update appearances, 3 as herself with the keyboard, and 2 ended up being a recurring character because it happened twice with Marcelo as the couple you can't believe are together. So that's really the story with Jane. Other than that, it's 2 sketch appearances that were notable.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, those two, one of them has to be the Tiny Baby Shoe, which was from the Walton Goggins episode. And that's one where it was at the end of the season and we all sort of felt like, okay, the show is trying to give something to Jane to get on screen. That's her thing. And that was certainly a positive. So I think if you're looking at the case now of okay, she's being brought back, obviously that did something for the show, that they feel good about it. I want to take the pro approach of like talking about Jane Wickline and talking about the positives. I believe I read somewhere, and again, I get like a lot of SNL news thrown at me, that like um, Lorne thinks of Jane. Maybe this was from like the Susan Morrison book or like one of her interviews, that she said that like Lorne looks at Jane like a little bit like Gilda, like she's a very like sweet person, and I think like he might really like her. So I do think that, and like I could see that, but like it's interesting. Like I don't know that the Gilda stuff translates on screen as much as it might off screen, but like if he feels like there's potential, like Lorne is like George Steinbrenner. Like he finds like great talent. So I think like it is possible that maybe we should trust in Lorne, that he has a vision for Jane. So like that is a big positive for her coming into the season, that she has this like vote of confidence that she was brought back. But do you feel like she's going to be under the gun this season to produce, or is she going to get that time to breathe?
Well, I think bringing up Tiny Baby Shoe is very important because we're entering a season that has a pre-tape vacuum just waiting to be seized following the disillusion of Please Don't Destroy. You know, we don't have Pete and Chris Red doing raps. We don't have Kyle and Beck doing their stuff. We don't have that thing right now. So that's going to be seized probably by a rookie writer pairing. Maybe Ben Marshall could be that rookie because he's already in the building for these many years. But it could be Jane. It could be, okay, we tried the update thing and it worked. We liked it. Obviously, it happened 5 times. They wouldn't have kept giving her that chance. That's so coveted by people like Heidi, Ego, Keenan, Mikey, everybody up top. So I think that that pre-tape vacuum could be a lane to success for Jane. I know that we've talked about and heard that she did have a lot of popularity on TikTok because doesn't have a big social media presence on like Instagram, has like 35,000 followers. So I don't see the numbers there, but if there's an audience for Jane that could go to pre-tapes and get the YouTube clicks, that's got to be it because the sketch work just never took off like at all this season.
Yeah, so I would think that for her to be successful, we're going to have to see more in live sketch for Jane, and then to get that year 3. So that will be something that we'll all be watching. I certainly think she has that opportunity though, because I don't know that anyone would have expected there to be this little amount of women on the show coming into season 51. And now with them hiring Veronica, like only one of the 5 new cast members is a woman. So there's Veronica and Jane essentially as the featured players. You would expect, also Ashley, I guess also include, we're going to have to put Ashley in the same category. So Ashley, Jane, and Veronica. And then the 2 more experienced would be Chloe and Sarah. So like there's a lot of space for her to play in. It's going to be very fascinating to see how that works, Mike.
And let me just unpack what John just said, which is that Jane Wickline is tied for the 3rd most tenured woman on the SNL cast right now, tied with Ashley, of course, her classmate behind Chloe Fineman and Sarah Sherman. So we talked about a lot last year with Sarah's stats that we were kind of seeing the decline of the squirm and the increase in the screen time. So benefit to Sarah Sherman, but also maybe getting more roles that could have gone to a Heidi or a Chloe was going to Sarah. So Jane Wickline, like maybe she's, hey, you got to take some improv classes or take some acting classes because, we're going to need you to play straight roles, just kind of being a person in a sketch. Because we did, when we did see her, it was in live sketches other than Water Park and the background of the Chris Rock blind date sketch. Those are the only 2 appearances live sketch that were over 2 minutes. So then it's Tiny Baby Shoe, background of Trump Easter Cold Open. So right there, it's like all those appearances were very rookie Longfellow-esque, like getting a quick line and leaving a sketch, which can work, but it can only work for so long. See Longfellow's exit. So right there, 34.3% of her screen time was on Update. So if you remember Jane Wickline, it's probably from Water Park, Baby Shoe, or Update.
And I think that I go back to like the Chalamet barista sketch where I think she was like at the start of that one and then walks out. Like that's the type of thing that's like, I don't think we can afford to get that from Jane this season. Like, she's not the Keenan Thompson type where she's going to crush with one line and they're perfectly fine to just like use what they need from Keenan and walk out of the sketch. We need to be able to see more. I don't think that SNL can afford to have like bench players. Like, we need everybody to have a chance to get on the court and show what they could do. And I think that has to be the case here for Jane. So it's going to be interesting. I think what I think is the best version of Jane Wickline, Mike, potentially, and this is why I think in particular it's great to talk to you about her, is that like she's so musically inclined. And you see that with all of the performances that she brought from TikTok to the update desk, that I could really see her putting those in live sketches. And I think that if she's going to model herself after anyone in SNL history to take some pointers from, I think it's Anna Gasteyer. I think that's one of those cast members from the show that like didn't overdo it with music, but had like some really well-known musical sketches and musical impressions. Like she could do Celine Dion, she could do the Culps with Will Ferrell, and like that's the type of thing that I think that if Jane is going to succeed at Saturday Night Live, she needs to figure out how to take her best talents and put them into live sketch.
100%. It just, first of all, it's a cool gimmick when you see someone playing music live on the stage. It works already, gets the energy up, and it's kind of more spontaneous that way rather than a pre-taped rap or song that we've seen so much in this era of SNL. So yeah, I think that's a great take, is doing that. But also, I feel like in Jane's success and failure in her one and only season, it's been her on an island. Like, gotta get her to working with other writers, other cast members. So whether that be a rookie or whether that be one of the vets on their way out, because it just, you can't do live sketch material at 8H with like just you. So it's got to be more of those, like if we saw the Bill Burr Bald Men musical that you loved so much, John, and that had kind of a musical element live, like that would be cool. Like even just a throw to Jane for that kind of stuff could work for sure.
I think Fred Armisen is like also another person to model after
Definitely, yeah.
in terms of like what he was able to do with music in sketch. But that was exactly where I was going to go next, Mike, which is that I think that we saw her work with Marcelo on Update, and then like there's not another really pairing on the cast that we could say is concrete. She was castmates with Ashley, but we didn't get to really see them play together too much. So if you're coaching her and she's coming over to you, Mike, and she's like, okay, who should I write with? Who should I work with? Is there anyone that stands out to you from either the returnees or the newbies that you would like to see her get a chance with?
I would say Mikey and Streeter. I would say get me a sketch that fits me, because I'm sure that Mikey Day and Streeter Seidel, who are vets in multiple ways, for their tenure, for Mikey anyway, being a writer first, and you're not gonna try to usurp some star power from a Bowen Yang. Or Keenan can kind of play with everybody, but I would say Mikey and Streeter, like, develop some character, like get your own Debbie Downer, get that type of character that's synonymous with your own name. So Fred Armisen kind of played everywhere. Keenan's done it, Mikey's done it. Whereas there might not be one character you point to. I think Jane Wickline could actually benefit a ton from having even just one character, because we kind of know what Jane herself's character is. But having something that, and I think the Marcelo girlfriend played into that. Whereas that might not have been as funny if we didn't already kind of know what Jane was bringing. It might be funny for anyone to do that, but how quiet and kind of meek she is, and then having Marcelo being so loud, it worked right away. Like, the SNL fans got the concept immediately. So it worked in two ways. So I think that if you pair up with some of those vet writers, that would be the ultimate, is to kind of get your own Debbie Downer, for a sketch anyway, not counting Update.
I agree. I think from a writing perspective, that makes sense. From an on-screen partnership perspective, I'm going to throw out a wild thing here that I want to see if you like this or you don't like this. I think that a perfect on-screen pairing for Jane Wickline is James Austin Johnson. I think that they are both the very similar performers. Like, unlike Marcelo, who is like over the top, like just you could feel his warmth from across the room. Like, he is just running around talking to everybody, not shy at all. Jane is more reserved. She's more of an introvert. And James Austin Johnson, if you ever met him, very nice, but also very introverted. Like not the type of person that's gonna like come out of his shell unless he's doing an impression or unless he's doing something like on stage where he's performing. And I think that they could be like that interesting, like awkward couple, awkward pairing where if they were to write together, I think there could be some magic there.
I could see that, especially because we've been saying for years now that James Austin Johnson is, at least was at the time, primed to take over like the Beck Bennett dad roles. We've seen that is capturing, which everyone's trying to do on all comedic platforms, is capture like Gen Z apathy and kind of Gen Z angst. Is to have like a father daughter kind of thing with James would be, I think, at least the easiest thing to think of, if you're like, pitching new ideas and new pairings, because I think James could do so many different things. We've seen that, but kind of getting some type of dynamic going. And I agree that, that James would be an easy fit for that.
Yeah, so that's just my wild idea. We'll see if that materializes. If that happens in season 51, I'll be like, I said that. I said that in the preview podcast. What about the newbies, though, Mike? Anything from, I mean, Ben Marshall was already at the show. I don't think we saw, I'm trying to think if we saw Jane in any of the PDD sketches this past season. I have to go back and take a look. But Tommy Brennan, stand up. We got Cole Haynes, more of a sketch performer. Cam Patterson. Veronica is also a really interesting one there who, clearly has like an online presence and
And
is used to
musical.
making shorts and TikToks and musical. Like, how does Veronica play with somebody like Jane Wickline? She's almost feels to me like more of like an outgoing version of her, but what do you think?
I think the first thought would be that this could be somebody for Ashley, but I think maybe the juxtapose of Jane and Veronica could work. Jane was in two very brief PDDs. Missing Person came in at the end for 5 seconds, and then the Paul Mescal one was herself in the writers' room for 3 seconds. So we didn't really see her get to do that with PDD and lead one the way we saw like Molly do it in their election one or something like that. So I think that Ashley Padilla will have to kind of become, for better or worse, like, hey, you got to be kind of like the Heidi Gardner now that we hoped you would be. I wish we got to see, maybe one more year of them together. But with Jane Wickline, it's really just, I would like to ask her, to go back to your previous question about coaching her, is, what do you want to do on the show? Do you want to try to get 10% of Kristen Wiig before you leave the show? Because if you do, then we got to talk. But if you want to keep doing the update pieces and pre-tapes, then you can just stay on, Jane Wickline Island, and we'll do that. But it's not really a sustainable SNL path. Maybe a launch pad for something else, but I don't really know what that is yet.
I completely agree. Like, I do think that if she was to continue to do that, the question becomes of like, why are you here? Because you can do those things on TikTok already. Like, yes, it's just like a larger platform to do them, but like we need to see range and growth from her. I'm very interested to see if Veronica is a good thing for Jane or not, or really starts to like push her back to the back of the pack because they end up using her more, even though she's a year behind. It's just going to be really, really interesting to see how those two end up playing together. But overall, of course, we're rooting for Jane Wickline. We would love to see what she could do at the show. Us being like a little bit tougher on just like, what she can do is only just because, she's been granted this amazing opportunity. She's clearly very talented, and we all want to see it in those sketches. So, Mike, overall, do you have a prediction of how you think Jane is going to do in season 51?
Honestly, as far as stat wise, I would imagine it's going to be similar to year one. Like I remember Punky having a pretty bad stat season in 46, but we kind of chalked it up to the gigantic cast, election, and COVID. And we had three rookies, and Dismukes kind of had little glimmers, but then we didn't really get to see it till later on. Lauren Holt didn't return, but Punky got the second chance. So I'm thinking about it in those terms, that bottom of the pack, but brought back for some reason. And and Punky actually had a slightly worse second season and then a decent third season. So I think that for Jane, looking at the other rookie comps, like had a better first season than most of our recent rookies. I had a better first season than Ego Odom or Chloe Feynman, just kind of in usage. So that's my prediction: is it's going to be a little bit more of the same. Is that we probably won't see breakout moments, but we're going to see probably safe starts with update, And then hopefully, yeah, there's some magic in the writer's room because other than that, it's kind of just like, oh, Jane, what do you got this week? But to be fair to Jane, only rookie last season that was not shut out. So always found a way in the show last year.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting stat and maybe something that we should look at for the future when we're predicting which of our rookies will be brought back. I My biggest worry is that they focus so much on including the 5 rookies or the 4 rookies plus Ben Marshall and put them in the show that almost as a sophomore she gets overlooked. But if we start the season and in the first 3 somewhere Jane is leading a sketch, whether it's a pre-tape, a live sketch, or has a big moment on update, I think we can say, like, okay, we're feeling pretty good about where she goes. I think she's going to need to have at least 2, if not 3 big moments between now and Christmas for us to say, okay, we're feeling really strong about her coming back for year 3. And yes, the pressure is on her only because we just didn't get enough from her in year 1. But like I said, we're all rooting for her. And Mike, I cannot wait to talk about all of the stats of Jane Wickline from year number 2 with you this year on By the Numbers.
I can't wait either. I think that's kind of the fun back burner thing about our coverage and just watching the show week to week is seeing who's going to pop off at any moment. And I would ask you a final question as well, which is, does the inclusion of Jane compared to the other cast members who are not coming back, does it give you any insight to maybe a new SNL direction? Because we've been talking about this for probably like since season 40. Like, what's the new direction going to be? And of course, it's been 9-10 years of constant Trump coverage and a lot of different musical stylings from the cast and, you know, some classics, some kind of new stuff. But Jane being brought back, we thought Ashley was the lock. I thought that Jane and Emil were very much on the bump, like could go either way. But her coming back, does that kind of signify anything to you at all?
Only in that, and I remember talking about this with you on like a very early edition of By the Numbers, in that perhaps social media following is a factor in terms of success at Saturday Night Live, even though it's not on screen. It's not what we see all the time. It doesn't always translate to screen time. It is something that maybe the show does consider as far as which stars they want to keep on the show or not. And I remember like going back, I must have been 46 or 47 or 48. Like we were talking about like, oh, on one of these shows, like, should we make a graphic of like everyone's social media following? And then we're like, is it really relevant? Like, does it matter? And I know you said that like Jane doesn't have like a ton of followers on Instagram, but like on TikTok, she was super popular. Like I think this is a thing. So it's only that I think that maybe as the show, and Lauren talked about this a bit at the Emmys, like the direction of the show and what comedy is to the next generation, it is possible that people who are producing their own stylings of comedy on TikTok are more valuable to the show than other stylings in the near future.
I think it's definitely talked about in conference rooms in that building is, you know, who are we trying to get, who are we trying to retain? You know, the diehards are the diehards, but you know, are we trying to get some more right leaning audience? Are we trying to get younger? Are we trying to get more things that are just compact for the quick videos? Because you know, we have somebody like James, Andrew, Sarah, Ashley, like they feel like these are people that could have existed in different eras where Jane Wickline not so much. So this will be a very fascinating season 2. The sophomore stats, I think, are my favorite stats because it's like you got a second chance, but are you gonna get that pay bump and that in the top of the credits, or are we gonna you're gonna be gone?
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to cover it all with you, Mike. Of course, we are here every single day talking about these cast previews. So up next, we got the rookies to talk about over the next few days. We'll also have our season 51 preseason roundtable where Mike will be back to talk through all of the themes of this season. So he'll be on that panel. Looking forward to that and hanging out with you, Mike. We will have our season 51 preseason cast draft next week as well to talk through all of these cast members one last time and draft them for the season. And then our coverage begins of season 51 with the Hot Take Show roundtable. And Mike, we got By the Numbers every Wednesday after a new episode.
We'll be back season 6 By the Numbers. Can't wait to see you, John, for that first one and see who. Give me a prediction now. We probably won't talk about it next week. Who's going to get the most screen time in the first episode?
In the
Don't
first
say James.
Don't say James. Oh yeah,
Well, he'll be the free space in the bingo card.
yeah, he's the center square. Who's gonna get the most screen time in the first episode? I'm gonna say Marcelo, Bad Bunny hosting. I feel like that's the
Makes sense.
basic. Yeah, I feel like you got to go there.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I'll even give you. I'll say Marcelo week number 1, Keenan week number 2 with Amy Poehler in the building, and then Bowen week number 3 with Sabrina Carpenter in the building. How about that for a prediction?
That all makes sense, but don't count out Colin Jost.
Yeah, exactly.
Most screen time of anybody.
Of course. So, of course, like I said, Mike and I will be here to talk through all of the numbers and stats this coming season. To never miss anything we have going on here at the SNN, please subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. You can follow us at the SNL Network, where we will have data coming out of all of the screen time from every single week of Saturday Night Live over there if you want to check that out. So that's at the SNL Network. And of course, we have fun things happening on Patreon as well with the release of our season 31 series with Sammy K. We just wrapped up our talk about the season the 50 greatest episodes of all time from SNL history that we did all summer long. So there's a lot of things happening here at the SNN. Very excited to be a part of it and be with you all season long. So on behalf of Mike Murray and everyone here at the Saturday Night Network, my name is John Schneider, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.
It's on the Saturday Night Network.